It's Summer NAMM 2016 and we're here on the Coil audio booth with Jim Valentine, the designer of the new CA-70 preamp. Jim.
Yes.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again too, Will.
Can you tell us more about the CA-70 then? What's going on with this delightful looking thing?
Oh, well, thank you. It's our second module in our modular series of high voltage tube audio mic pre's. This unit is it's another Western Electric design that's again was built for years and years and years. This is more of a 30s or 40s style mic pre. It uses very large octal based tubes, which ends up translating into just bigger envelope, a bigger, more open sound. All old NOS components. We're using NOS tubes, and it's all modular. So we have a 2-channel system, a 6-channel system. You can plug in as many of any of the modules that you want in either of the systems.
So you can mix and match with the other
absolutely, you can mix and match. Whether it's this system or even our 2-channel system, we can install one of each modules in it for you if you want.
So can you tell us a bit more about why you decided to go all the way back to the 30s?
Well, everything always seems to be a compromise the further you go. Stuff gets smaller, stuff gets cheaper. You know, the bean counters come in, they want to try and cut costs on stuff. And that was really the golden area of audio, where there was no expense spared when they designed stuff. So, you know, the simplicity is what's really appealed to us. The fact that there's really nothing in there whatsoever. It's very simple. It's a handful of tubes, handful of capacitors, handful of, you know, transformers, and ridiculously high voltage to carry your signal down the line. And I mean, the reference for me is kind of like gourmet food. You know, you just really want a few simple ingredients, but the best ingredients you can possibly put in there. And it makes for a really simple, elegant, giant sounding vintage preamp. I think a lot of people are under the impression that vintage gear stuff sounds like 40s or 50s recordings, but it doesn't at all. The reason those old recordings sound the way they do is because it got put on 10 different tape machines and then a different piece of vinyl by the time it got to the consumer. So it's kind of muffledy and dark. If you were an engineer in a studio in the 40s and 50s, what you heard was amazing high fidelity coming out of the speakers. So it's erasing all that secondary stuff that happened and going back so you can really hear what was going on back then. It always blew me away when I first started using vintage stuff, how amazing and hi-fi it was. It's not dark and mushy and smushy like you would think.
And can you talk us through a few of the front panel features, because there's this NF, the negative feedback circuit.
Absolutely. It's the same features that we put on a lot of our preamps. Most of the old preamps were fixed amplifiers. They just amplified. They were fixed at 42 dB a gain. So you needed to input the inputs, you needed to attenuate the input signal and attenuate the output signal. So we put a multi-position attenuator that gives you 3 different mic pad positions, and then a line pad position, which allows you to run Pro Tools or your tape machine through it, like when you're mixing. And that's more or less a bridging input pad that I found in an old RCA catalog years ago, where they told you how to, here's how you run a line amplifier through your RCA module. The negative feedback was more of what the designers would use when they were working on the amplifiers. It normally was not something the engineer was allowed to control. It was the way the engineers voiced and created the frequency response of the amplifiers. We just decided to put it on a knob because it's awesome. You can voice it through a bunch of different types of amplifiers from that era. The amplifier is actually a straight up Gates SA-70 amplifier out of a Gates SA Silver Anniversary console that they built from the 40s and the 50s. We just upgraded it with the additional controls. So the negative feedback allows it to be voiced from really smooth and dark to really bright and forward. It also kind of increases the gain a little bit. And then the low and the high EQ are filtering in the negative feedback that causes a shift. It's more of a tilting type of EQ to shift the low end and the top end forwards and backwards.
Okay, right.
So it's really unique. It's not necessarily an EQ. I hate to say it's an EQ because it is kinda, but it's more of a tone shaping thing. It's a little guitar amplifier for your microphones, more or less.
Cool. Can you tell us how much this is going to cost then and when it's going to be available?
The CA-70s will be available almost immediately. We just rolled them out literally yesterday here at the NAMM. We have one prototype in the world. $13.99 for the EF86 version, our old module. $12.99 per module for this. The power supply and rack is $850. And our 2-channel unit of the CA-70 is $27.99.
And that's including the two?
Includes 2 channels. I
fantastic.
can't remember what the price of the mono unit is, but you can add another unit later on too if you want to. Factory install.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you, Will, for coming back.